Imagine waking up one morning to discover that something the size of Manhattan, from another star system, has quietly slipped into our solar system. NASA says it's a comet. Others say it's a message. But what if the truth is something far older and far more intelligent than anything we have ever imagined? No one expected the first hints of 31 Atlas to mean anything. Astronomers were used to spotting icy wanderers, small forgotten relics drifting through the void. But 31 Atlas wasn't small. It wasn't quiet, and it wasn't behaving like anything the sky had shown before. When it was first detected, the official papers described it as an interstellar object with a hyperbolic trajectory. But those words didn't begin to explain the unease behind closed doors. It wasn't just the way it moved, it was the way it seemed to react. Like something watching, something adjusting, something alive. The earliest signal came from an observatory in Arizona. Dr. Ellen Browning, a veteran astronomer with 30 years of deep sky observation, was the first to log the anomaly. She knew the behavior of distant comets better than most people knew their local weather. So when she saw 31 Atlas shift so subtly it might have been dismissed, she felt something in her chest tighten. The object wasn't following the expected model. Its brightness fluctuated, not in response to solar radiation, but in a timed pattern, a rhythm, almost like breathing. She submitted her notes. For a while, no one listened. That changed when NASA's infrared array picked up something almost impossible. Heat signatures pulsing beneath the surface of the object. Not naturally, not randomly, in intervals separated exactly by 11 minutes and 22 seconds. When the report hit the desks of senior scientists at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, everything went quiet. Calls were made. Datasets were locked behind internal portals, and the public was told only the simplest truth. An interstellar comet had entered the system. Nothing more, but behind the scenes, the tension grew. The object wasn't just passing through, it was slowing down. The deceleration was so slight that most people wouldn't have even noticed. But to the physicists studying it, the meaning was terrifying. Natural objects don't break. They don't decide to reduce speed. They follow gravity, inertia, radiation pressure. Whatever 31 Atlas was, it wasn't obeying the rules. And then came the radio silence. Not silence from the object, but silence from the agencies watching it. Leaks, however, have a way of slipping through cracks, especially when the truth outweighs fear. The first leak came from an anonymous engineer working in orbital analysis who uploaded a short, cryptic message to a private forum. Atlas is listening. Stop transmitting. It was dismissed as a hoax, another conspiracy post, but days later, the same engineer vanished from online activity altogether. That was when amateur radio astronomers began picking up faint, almost whisper-like bursts from the object. Not speech, not language, more like structured noise, repeating at precise intervals. When the data was run through signal analysis software, something disturbing happened. The waveform wasn't random. It held symmetry and encoded structure. Something had encoded information into those pulses, and then the pulses stopped, right as the object crossed the orbital plane of Mars. It was as if 31 Atlas knew it was being watched. NASA stated the radio pulses were interference, a common explanation, a safe explanation, but insiders were not so convinced. A message circulated quietly among astrophysicists working on the case. It reacted, no one elaborated. As Atlas moved closer, new details emerged. The object's outer shell wasn't smooth ice. Not entirely. High-resolution imaging revealed angular structures, geometric, regestu straight, to clean, to be natural. They looked like plates, panels, something manufactured, and beneath them, the heat signatures grew stronger. If anyone inside the agency still believed the comet story, they had stopped admitting it. Military involvement began next. Satellites went offline. Tracking data disappeared from public access. Aerospace contractors Lockheed, Northrop were suddenly tasked with high-priority orbital monitoring systems. The public still heard nothing, but those who studied space long enough could feel it. Something was wrong. Then came the first real shock, as Atlas swung past the orbit of Mars. It emitted a burst of ultraviolet light that struck one of NASA's probe satellites. The satellite shut down instantly. Its backup systems, hardened to withstand solar storms, cosmic radiation, even direct physical damage, all failed simultaneously. But something stranger happened. The satellite's last transmitted frame showed the light, bending, curving around Atlas, like it had warped space itself. This wasn't just technology. It was mastery of physics. Humankind hadn't even begun to approach. Reporters asked NASA whether they were dealing with an alien craft. NASA denied. Everything but denials don't stop the data. A group of independent astronomers in Chile noticed that Atlas's trajectory had shifted again, not because of gravity, not because of radiation. It had changed direction ever so slightly toward Earth. That was when the panic began within the classified circles. Whatever Atlas was, it wasn't drifting. It wasn't tumbling. It wasn't dead. It was navigating. Researchers reviewing the heat pulses found that each cycle was slightly hotter than the last, as if something inside the object was waking up or powering up. The fear wasn't that Atlas might be a ship. The fear was that Atlas might be a probe, a scout, something sent ahead of something larger. The idea wasn't new. Carl Sagan warned years ago that the first sign of intelligent extraterrestrial life might not be a spaceship in orbit. It might be a long-range automated probe silently studying us from a distance. João Tavares, a leading astrophysicist, said, any civilization advanced enough to cross interstellar distances wouldn't send their people first. They'd send something disposable, something observing, and that's what terrified the analysts most. 31 Atlas was observing everything as it approached Earth's orbital path. Unusual phenomena began occurring. Deep-sea hydrophones in the Pacific detected rumbling tones that matched the exact frequency of the pulses Atlas once emitted. Thousands of miles away, in the Nevada desert, seismic sensors detected micro-vibrations not connected to any geological activity. They came in waves, intervals, the same intervals Atlas had been producing months earlier. It was as if Earth itself was responding to the object, or as if the object was calling to something already here. For decades, military pilots have reported strange craft near the world's ocean's metallic spheres, diving into water without splash, triangular shapes hovering over bases, dark silent objects pacing aircraft at impossible speeds. Officially, the government never connected these reports to anything beyond Earth. But as Atlas drew nearer, a few brave scientists whispered a possibility too terrifying to document. What if Atlas isn't coming to Earth for the first time? What if it's returning? The idea spread quietly among those who had studied unidentified aerial phenomena for years. Ancient underwater anomalies, electromagnetic hotspots, non-human encounters, all suddenly pointing to one possibility: Atlas wasn't alone. It was part of something bigger, something ancient, something that may have visited Earth long before humans built cities or carved their first tools. But the most unsettling discovery came from a deep space radar facility in Australia. When Atlas reached a distance of 0.3 astronomical units from Earth, it emitted a new signal far more complex than before. The waveform, when plotted, resembled a map. Not a star map, not a route, a contour map. A map of Earth's oceans, asterisk, the Mariana Trench, the Tonga Trench, the Puerto Rico Trench, asterisk, Atlas had data, coordinates, depth, profiles, asterisk, someone or something had given this object detailed knowledge of Earth's deepest points long before it even entered the solar system. The only question was how and why. Atlas's speed decreased again, this time dramatically. Objects don't do that on their own, unless they can. As the object reached the inner solar system, astronomers witnessed something impossible. The object released a thin trail of particles, metallic particles, ranged in a straight, evenly distributed line stretching many thousands of miles. The formation was too precise to be accidental. It looked like a scaffolding, a marker, a transmission line. Asterisk 1 astrophysicist described it as breadcrumbs across space, like Atlas was constructing something, or sending out something. Theories ranged from communication beacons to nanotech, filaments to self-replicating probes riding solar winds. Asterisk, but one theory grew louder. Atlas had begun deploying listeners' devices meant to survey Earth. Now the US government had no choice. A scrambled meeting was held between NASA, the Pentagon, and several private research contractors. The satellite that had been disabled was analyzed and found to contain microscopic metallic fragments embedded within its casing. Fragments not consistent with any known comet dust. Their atomic structure was not perfect lattice, precision beyond human capacity. This was no comet. The truth was no longer avoidable. Asterisk, as Atlas reached its closest pass to Earth, something extraordinary happened. For less than 3 seconds, every magnetometer on the planet spiked. Birds changed direction mid-flight. Whales dove to maximum depths. Compasses jittered. Electric grids flickered. Asterisk, and in those 3 seconds, every deep-sea hydrophone recorded a single tone, long, low, impossibly deep. A reply from Earth's oceans, asterisk, whatever sent Atlas. Something here answered back. Asterisk, suddenly, everything made sense to those who had studied the signs. US ocean identified, submerged objects reported for decades, entering and exiting deep trenches. Glowing underwater structures seen by submarine crews. Navy sonar picking up fast movers traveling at thousands of knots underwater far beyond any human craft. The military always denied these encounters meant anything. Asterisk, but Atlas's ocean map. That single underwater reply, it was undeniable. Asterisk, Earth had been visited before, and something was still here. Asterisk, Atlas slowed further, drifting into a position between Earth and the Sun. To the public, it was just another space rock. To the agencies watching, it was a sentinel, a relay, a messenger. The heat signatures inside grew brighter. The panel-like structures shifted ever so slightly, like petals unfurling, not opening, aligning. One scientist whispered, "It's activating." Asterisk, but activating for what? Asterisk, some feared Atlas was a weapon. Others believed it was a communication hub, a surveillance node, a beacon calling its makers. But the most unsettling theory came from Dr. Browning, the first to detect the object months earlier. Asterisk, she said, what if Atlas isn't here to attack or observe? What if it's here to awaken something already on this planet? Something sleeping or waiting beneath the oceans? No one laughed, not anymore. Asterisk, because 2 hours after Atlas aligned its panels, something happened deep beneath the Pacific. A seismic event, small but unnatural, detected at 11,000 meters below the surface. Not an earthquake, not plate movement, a release of energy, followed by a long, rumbling pulse, like a heartbeat. Atlas responded with a flash of ultraviolet light. Asterisk, Earth responded with another pulse, back and forth, like a conversation. Asterisk, for the first time, humanity wasn't alone. It was listening, and something else, something ancient, intelligent and hidden beneath the darkest waters, was listening back. Asterisk, what Atlas truly is, no one can say yet. A probe, a messenger, a warden, a beacon. But one thing is certain, the story of 31 Atlas is not the story of an object arriving from deep space. Asterisk, it's the story of something returning to check on something it left behind. Asterisk, and as Atlas slowly drifts into Earth's shadow, synchronizing with the planet's magnetic field as if waiting for a signal that hasn't come yet, you have to wonder if this is just the scout. Asterisk, what's coming next?